So, hi everybody. Welcome to this new podcast episode from LightShare. Today we have with us the amazing Tayler Olivas, and he's a visual development artist. And today we had the pleasure to bring him on. So I'm here with Dom and Andre. And well, feel free to introduce yourself if you want. Tayler, anytime you want.
So my name's Tayler Olivas, and like you said, I'm a visual development artist, concept artist. I also am a landscape painter and an educator, so I'm really juggling quite a bit of things right now. But a little bit about my backstory. I came from a really small town in California called Hanford, California, and I think there's only 30,000 people that live in that town. I swear, the population there is probably more cows than people, to be completely honest, to give you a little bit of perspective. So I grew up without any real art education, any real mentors. A lot of my art education was just online, learning from YouTube videos. I figured out about Gumroads, and I started to learn about concept art, and that was what kind of piqued my interest. When I was a kid, I was such a nerd. I would always just be drawing and watching Star Wars and playing games. And through high school, you have the pressures from your parents, hey, you should go into the STEM field, get a job in tech, get a job doing computer science or something like that that's going to bring in money. So throughout all of high school, I was just kind of grinding towards that goal. But when I finally graduated, I got accepted into some of my dream universities, but I realized I had this weird epiphany. I saw myself in the future doing those things, and I really asked myself am I going to be happy doing computer science or hardcore engineering in the future? And the answer was no. So I just spent some time going to community college and building my skills and making a portfolio to where I could actually go to a place like Southern California and learn with some of the masters that I've been watching online. So that's kind of my little story arc. But it's so interesting too, because you have goals in life and you have aspirations, and sometimes you reach those goals and hit them, but then there's always something next that you're trying to go to, right? And I'm sure you guys feel this as well.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting deep right out of the bat.
But, keep going.
Actually, I identified a lot of the story, especially with the computer science kind of thing, because I always thought that was my route as well. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it's already. I don't know if you got into university classes or anything for that, but I ended up going to it and spending a couple of months in there. And dude, I had no idea that I wanted to do art at that time, so I was basically lost. It was either this or I don't know what to do next. But I can totally relate with what you say. I can see myself doing that for the rest of my life. That doesn't mean that you hate it. It's just that that's not for you, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a weird purgatory too, because I don't know. I feel artists, at least creatives, I feel we can do pretty much any job we set our minds to. There's these core tenets that we have, at least the really good artists or artists that are trying to achieve some sort of mastery. You have discipline, and how to achieve certain fundamentals in any discipline, whatever it might be. So I don't know, I'm thinking about it now. I could see myself doing computer science stuff and maybe finding some sort of satisfaction in it. But art is so much cooler. You get to grow every day. You get to learn something new.
Exactly.
It's never
That's
ending.
The point,
you're
right?
never. Yeah.
To have fun. If you don't enjoy it, as you said, we can probably do anything we set ourselves up to do, right? But if we don't kind of feel it, or we don't feeling passion for it, it becomes kind of painful. It's I feel I'm doing this for someone else, not for myself.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what was the turning point for you guys? So, what was that moment mainstream. You kind of said, okay, I'm gonna give up on this and I'm gonna go for art?
Yeah, that moment, I'm thinking back to it now, and it was when I actually went to a community college course, and I met this one guy. His name was Glenn Hill, and I'll have to send you some of his art later, because he was a godsend, honestly. He was a really lucky happenstance in my life, where he was this artist that went to Art Center and went through all this academic training, the Art Center back in the day when it was Craig Mullins and Rob Ruppel, all these guys. And he had
Big
to go
names.
back to Yeah, I know, right? So it's just like, he kind of exposed me to like a lot of like the old masters like Dean Cornwell or like NC Wyeth, like Leyendecker, Rockwell, and I was like, these guys are amazing. Like this is what illustration is like, and you can make money doing this. And he had actually been in the industry for a while and got to a point where he was like directing films and like pitching these projects and getting millions of dollars to actually like create television shows. Like he worked with Seth MacFarlane on Family Guy for a while. So I was like, that was like good for me too, because then I could go to my parents and be like, hey, like you could actually make some money doing this. Like you don't have to be like, like the typical stereotypical like artist, like starving artist where you're just like making abstract paintings and hoping that someone maybe like buys them, or
like
maybe you just get lucky. Yeah.
So get a big presentation for your parents, like, hey parents, see this graph? This is why I need to.
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
I was just gonna ask you, like, did you have to prove your parents that you can actually make money doing this, or I mean, what was that time they just kind of understood, like, okay, this is a real thing, like, yeah, go for it, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting question, because
or was it rather
like
a little bit of a process, like a process, like a transition, like maybe it was not like a specific moment, but maybe it took like time.
That's more or less what it kind of was like, because like in high school, like I was like super disciplined about school, but like after that I just kind of took that discipline and then put it into art. And I think my parents saw that and they're like, okay, like if he's telling us that there's artists that can make money and he's like disciplined about it somewhat, like I think that kind of proved to them like, okay, like if he's serious about it, hopefully like he'll end up getting a job. Like they believe in perseverance as well. So like from that point of view, I'm like super happy to have the parents that I have, because I know that there's like some families that just completely do not allow their children to do art, and they kind of have to do it in secrecy. Like I've heard like horror stories where like kids will have like sketchbooks and their parents will like see the sketchbook and they'll just tear it apart.
And
yeah, I've like heard stories like that. And it's like, wow, like you can't even like express your art to your parents and show them that that's like something you love, So so having that support, I think, was like super important. I didn't have like those weird anxieties like in the back of my head, like my parents will hate me for doing this or something like that. I feel like they kind of supported me throughout the whole process, so that was like super nice to have. I don't know how you guys kind of came up. You guys have like a similar experience, or?
I mean, it definitely helps to not have that pressure on you, like to feel like you're doing something wrong or something that it's making your parents disappointed about you,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I would say having... Yeah, go.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, having supportive parents is like a big thing, It's really, really
it's
important.
hard enough with support from parents, Like, I cannot imagine having to fight to do this kind of thing. And I don't know, like, imagine, like, I'm not a parent right now, but I can imagine myself being one. And I don't know, like, what would it take for me to fight my son in order, like, hey, you cannot do this kind of thing, Like, I guess it's a little bit of like they're worried about your future, but at the same time, like, if you are so worried, try to not ruin his psychology. Like fight all the time, But
I mean, I've kind of experienced that a little bit, but it's not to the extent of like they snatched my sketchbook away. But my family was really keen on getting a good paying job and like being financially secure, which is a good thing. But I like to be able to work hard for what I want to get for, and like not live super easy. But I think the hard work is like the reward for trying to establish yourself, at least like as an artist, which is kind of unconventional these days. So
I guess you were in respect, right, when you showed that you were working hard towards a goal. Like you said that you were working hard in high school as well, like from the start, so you carry that on through art. But with me, I earned the respect because like I was never hardworking my entire life, and then when I find out art, that's when I started like really grinding and really dedicating myself and stopped doing like everything that was not art, like stopped gaming, stopped everything else. And that's when they realized like, oh yeah, he must really want this, because
something clicked. It's like actual passion. They probably saw, okay, like this dude's gonna make it at some point.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, crossing their fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
In my
think we're all in
case,
a good place.
my parents were also very supportive. Especially my mom. My dad is like, he doesn't really understand what this is about. Like, he knows I just paint and I draw stuff, right? And he doesn't understand how this can make you money, right? Why would someone pay for that? And it's like, so where's your drawings? Like, this is the game, I get it, but where's your drawings and stuff? And I'm like, Dad, my drawings are not ending up like in the final product, right? This is like a whole process. And I go ahead and try to explain everything, and he's like, anyway, if this makes you happy, go ahead. But I have like a theory on why I believe that nowadays this is kind of becoming like more, I shouldn't say mainstream, but I was going to say like the parents are starting to be more, they understand this a little better because there's a lot
like
more exposure in terms of schools and courses out there. Like I'm talking about specific training, right? Like concept art, like concept design for films, for games, for creatures, for whatever. It's not only art school anymore. It's like very specific. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so if there are schools out there, this must be a thing, right? Okay, then just go ahead. Yeah, I'll pay for it, right? You can go to our school. And whereas in our case, our parents come from a time where, as Dom mentioned, you had to do some different type of work different jobs for financial stability and study this and become that so you can have this life, and no art, no, don't do art, oh my god, no, it's gonna So I think now it's kind of changing a little bit, and that's why they're being like more, as he said, normalized. But I'm glad this is happening actually. And
yeah, that's interesting. I think the world's changing too, like quite a bit. Like look at like the past just 100 years, like, or even, I don't know, let's go even like farther, like 1,000 years. Like in the past, like having kids was like a necessity because like you either had like a plot of land or like you like sold your daughter off to another family to like for like royalty or some of those reasons. But like now, like I don't know, like art's becoming a little bit more normalized too. Like there's a lot of money that's going into it, and I think like even just small things like Disney showing like some of the concept art at the end of Mandalorian is like super good to show kids too. Like, whoa, like that's actually like those aren't like shots from the actual episode, but those were like the ideas beforehand. Like this is how things get made. It's not just like someone clicks a button and then like the Mandalorian's made, or like you just have like one writer and like they're getting all the credit. It's like you have this whole pipeline of people that are involved with it, and like even down to like catering services too. But I think artists are getting a little bit more respect nowadays too. Like I'll see like there's like a Christmas special one time, and Disney was like revealing the new Avatar land in Florida, and like Ian McCaig came on and talked about like the concept, like the whole process for doing the concepts. And it's like, whoa, like I've been watching videos of this guy for a long time, and like now my parents are watching him talk too. Right. So I think it's becoming a little bit more normalized, and people are realizing like design is like it's like a huge industry, right? Like everything you see in the world is made by a person pretty much. Anything like man-made is like designed. It's gone through like a process of iteration. You have a team of people that are kind of solving those problems to make things manifest in reality. So, I don't know. I think artists are super important
to a mainstream audience now. Like everything about the process is being like more exposed, and that's cool because people who didn't get to understand what this was about now they kind of have like a better understanding of it. Like at least they know it exists, right? Like there is such a process behind all those titles and stuff, and that's cool. Because usually when you say I'm a concept artist, like if there's someone who doesn't know anything about the art industry, they're gonna feel pretty much like
who's that? Or what is that?
What's a concept artist?
What is that?
Wait, so you're not a real artist? You're just a concept
artist. Like for what?
Yeah,
so
but like
I want to be a concept musician, Yeah, that would be cool. So I don't have to do real music. I heard that as
Just
well.
get those all the time.
I don't actually play it. I just figure it out in my head.
Yeah, it's all over
It's just
here.
the idea.
No, but like if you point them out to Netflix, and show the variety of shows that are in there, or
Oh,
your
yeah.
Steam library, like you just tell them, hey, this needs someone behind it. Like imagine if every game on Steam had at least one concept artist. Like that's already a huge amount of people. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the entertainment industry is getting so big that it's hard to not like have people trying to make this out. And I don't know about you guys, but you were talking about making off. And like the first time that I saw one of those was for the prequels of Star Wars. Like I had to find a compilation on YouTube of those like extras that came in DVD about concept art and the world building. And like
Yeah.
that was the moment where like my mind got blown. It was like, oh my god, you can do it.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
like I was already like a little older, but imagine seeing that as a kid. I enjoy watching those way more than I enjoy watching the movies, I guess. It's all about like the making of process and
The whole
those
process.
small
Yeah.
maquettes that they used. Yeah. That's like
Exactly.
so cool, man.
To see it all come to life, like where did it start, and having in your mind like the final result and trying to what's the word here, like deconstruct all of that, reverse engineer, right? Like see how they made all those designs. And it blew my mind to see most of the Lord of the Rings kind of stuff being made with just pencil drawings, like a lot of the artists that worked on that, they were just working with pencil, and it blew my mind. I was like, holy moly, dude. Yeah. That was pretty crazy. But yeah.
Peter Jackson chose some really like badass legends.
I remember seeing like the first God of War game. It was for PS2, I think. And I remember seeing like on the little CD case, they had like a little book with art about the creatures. And I was like, holy shit. And that got me into Greek mythology, and I started to draw creatures and stuff. Yeah. And now the latest God of War has been like blowing up. Like back in the days, people, not everybody would know about God of War and who Kratos is and stuff like that. But now it's like, yeah, God of War, everybody knows about it, So it kind of became like a more known thing now. So yeah, it's really cool to see this whole
that
industry
actually like
growing.
makes me a little curious. Like I assume that you didn't had much contact with this side of the industry before meeting that teacher that like kind of showed you the way, but you were going to computer science. Well, yeah, showing like the ways of the forest. And like when I went to computer science, it was already because I wanted to make games, right? I just didn't know that the art side existed. But how did you bridge that gap? Like you were going like straight forward to one direction, and then you turned 180, but because you met this guy. But I kind of want to understand like what the whole process is, because it's not as easy, at least it wasn't for me, right? As just, hey, I see this is what I want now. What was the process in your head of like, okay, I wanted to do, because I'm having a hard time explaining, because to me it was like this. I wanted to do computer science because I like to create stuff. And in computer science, because you are programming, you are creating stuff as well. Right. It's just that it's in programming language and everything like that. And then I was attached to the creativity side, and that was what brought me to art, And I want to like understand what was this kind of process in your mind while you were talking with that teacher, because it seemed like he was already very like high end on the industry, if that's something that is that how you say it? Like high end on the industry? But anyway, you met someone that was already there, Yeah. And that didn't happen to me. And I want to understand this shock of reality that happened in your head.
Yeah, man, that's a good question, actually. But yeah, like that transition between like computer science, like the reason why I got into it too is the same reason. It was because it was like a creative pursuit. Like I saw the gaming side of it, like, oh, people can make games with this, but like I didn't realize like it was beyond just like writing code. Like people have to develop the models or whatnot. But what Glenn showed me, that one guy showed me the way. He introduced me to like all those artists, and that kind of, it was like a weird branch. Like I got to figure out like who were like the artists beforehand, who were like the first in like the industry, right? So he would show me like the fine artists, but then he'd show me people like Ralph McQuarrie, like the visionary for Star Wars, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is where it's at. Like it was like the bridge of the gap between like fine art and actual entertainment art. So like once I just started discovering these dudes like Ralph McQuarrie and like Sid Mead, like that's when I started to realize like, okay, like I can take illustration and make it something to where I'm actually like starting to concept things a little bit more. And from there I just started to just do my research, and see like what are the positions that are required for like these types of games or film. And like most of the time it's usually coming down to like illustration, visual development, concept art. And these like terms are kind of interchangeable. Usually like an artist is doing all three of those things, right? And even in games too, you're doing like even some modeling as well. But I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's kind of like what opened the floodgates a little bit for me, was just like realizing like art is kind of all connected. And a lot of the industry is like art heavy, right? Like a lot of it's requiring you to know like how to actually paint, or how to communicate visually. Like how do you have an idea in your head,
basic
but then how do you
fundamentals.
manifest that? Yeah, exactly. It's just like because I teach classes now, and like honestly it's like been the best learning experience for me, because the more I teach it, the more I realize like art is just another form of communication. Like literally, like if you look back in history, like back to cave paintings, like art was a way to communicate like how to survive in the world. Like there's an ox, there's the shape language for the ox. Like if you see that, you can eat it. If you see like the shape language for a tiger and stripes, like stay away from that. And those are like stories in the caves. Like
It's like
but
a
now
reflection
it's like
of your life, right?
yeah, exactly. Like it's just like an imprint of what we've observed and like what we've lived through. And I think art's like super important for that reason, like because we're able to tell these very intricate stories now, like very nuanced stories through film and game. And I think they give people a better perspective on life than I don't want to say like a better perspective than like reading a book, but it's like it's more tangible, right? Like if you watch a film, you get that impression immediately. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that like our attention spans are just like ceasing nowadays with like Instagram. People don't necessarily want to read. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
Yeah,
might be going
I
off.
like both worlds. I like both the world of reading and the world of just watching like films or static images. Because, for instance, when you're reading something and it's being described to you, right? It's almost like you make it up in your mind. And then on the other side, it's like the whole design, the whole visual, it's already there, and it's probably better than you've ever could imagine it, right? So sometimes it's like, I don't know, I think there's a balance, there's a balance between both of them. But yeah, I don't know, I like both of them. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of shown to you, like it takes it to another next level sort of thing.
I don't know if I would put it as in next level. I would just say that they are different, because I guess you saw me like thinking while you were talking, right? But to me, it seems like a movie or a game. I think a game, it's maybe a in between a movie and a book, because in a book, like since I'm reading and everything is being generated in my head, and like every voice that I see that I read, it's my own voice on my own head,
Yeah.
It seems like I go through that a lot more. And a movie is like, hey, let me show you an experience, and then you are impacted by an external experience. And the game, it's kind of the in between, where you have some part of the control of it, and
It's
like
interactive.
the other part, it's someone showing you. Yeah, and I guess that has a different kind of interaction with like how you deal with those experiences, And that's not to say that one is better than the other, but I think for creatives, like reading books, it's very valuable, to the sense that like you learn how to imagine those kind of things, even if you don't know how to paint them yet,
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
I think we have that with like the VR games, that interactivity with, looking at something and then interacting. That gives us more of that feeling instead of just like a normal computer game.
I haven't
Oh, yeah.
tried much VR so far, but when I did, that was
Shit.
holy shit. That was so much different from any game I've ever tried, man. Like you could really feel like you're in that world, you know? Like you see your hands, you
Yeah.
can grab
Yeah.
stuff. That was so cool. I always tried VR at art events that I've been to, but I would really like to get a VR set for myself and get into VR sculpting and stuff. I always see
same,
videos
yeah.
about people producing those things, and it's like, dude, the possibilities are like all over the place, you know?
Yeah,
It makes
no,
me
and it's
really
so
want to get
tangible.
into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you actually like use your hands to sculpt instead of like a tablet or a pen.
Yeah, it
And
feels so
I'm
intuitive.
just
you
waiting.
know?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that to get like really good to where like we have like gloves with haptic feedback and like we can
yeah.
feel like the viscosity of like the clay or something, you know?
You will not need gloves, man. You just do it with your bare hands.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like
You
some
won't get
Black
a
Mirror
headset.
shit. Yeah.
You know, like I was working on a
looking forward to
VR
that day.
game like last year, and it was being
Oh, cool.
created inside of VR as well. So, dude, it's a freaking experience, you know.
Oh,
Like
that's sick.
it's really really awesome because you can create something and it's already there, you know. And like I was creating some characters, and there were those little robots with expressions and animation and everything. And dude, it was a little dude like robot in my head, you know. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
And you
It's so
could see
cool
like
because
him
the
saying
way
hi
you move
to
stuff, right? It's
Oh,
so
what?
intuitive.
Oh, that's cool.
What?
Yeah, man, it was.
That's crazy.
like,
The simulation.
I recommend everybody to try it.
Yeah. Can't escape
But
Matrix these
that
days.
actually like brings another question to my head because from what I've seen, you paint a lot traditionally as well.
Hmm.
And how do you separate or combine, or I don't know, bridge the gap between what you like to do traditionally and the digital world? Because I assume that for work stuff, you do everything digitally. I'm not sure if I'm wrong or right, but
Yeah.
yeah, just tell me like what do
Anything you
think
can
about
think
it?
of has a place in the art industry. That's what I love about this. You know, you can mix things as you wish, you know. I've seen
Yeah.
people just starting on paper and then doing clay over it and then taking pictures and continuing that on, I don't know, maybe scanning it with your
Yeah,
phone and
yeah.
continuing it. It's infinite, right? There's no limits.
Yeah, like you got people like Simon Lee where they're working on like Pacific Rim, but it's just clay sculptures and Chavant like oil clay. And
Yeah,
he's still able
exactly.
to work on projects like that. But for me it's not even like a means to an end. Like it's more or less just a way for me to get out and meditate a little bit and get away from the computer. But it has like I've noticed it has helped like a lot of my environment stuff because like when you're doing like landscape painting or plein air painting, like you're forced to observe like all the natural phenomenon that happens in the world, right? Like so lighting, different atmospheric effects. Like if it's like really foggy, you're going to be using more muted palettes or a cooler palette versus like if it's direct sunlight, you might want to be using a little bit more yellow ochre or certain combinations of colors. So for me, it's just like a good experience to kind of experiment a little bit and see like what I can actually like extract from the world and then put into my own work. And I don't know, like again, it's just like another mode for myself to just like get out of digital work because like I don't know about like you guys, but if I'm working in Photoshop like day in day out, I'll get burnt out super quick. But like the only thing that I can like do to get myself out of that like weird plateau or rut is like trying something new, like either like opening up my sketchbook and doing something traditionally or going outside and doing plein air landscape painting. So that's kind of like the purpose there. But like eventually I'd like to like blow up those paintings into like like huge oil paintings and sell them in galleries. And I don't know, like are you guys familiar with Alberto Mielgo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
His
have you
work is
seen his
awesome.
website? Like yeah, he's like such an inspiration for me too because like he's working on stuff like Spider-Verse, directing, like doing all these things, but you can tell he has like a love for like fine art where he's doing like figurative stuff in oils and acrylics and gouache. And like that to me is like so appealing, like not just being like a concept artist but like just generally like a well-rounded artist that if you like threw any type of media at like they could just create something, right?
Yeah,
To me,
create,
that's, like,
exactly.
so appealing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, do
create.
you guys
no
do
matter-
any like traditional work on the side too, or
I'm just
Well,
like,
I like to sketch traditionally, but
I like to sketch
That's
traditionally as
basically-
well, but I don't really paint
Yeah.
like with a brush, or I actually only tried more like dry techniques, right? Like pastel, I think, is that how you say it in English? Pastel colors? It's
Yeah,
like almost like
pastel.
chalk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or charcoal. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, but not much. I mean, I have my iPad for whenever I have to, just to get like a different kind of mindset, to get away from my computer and stuff, and I can sketch outside or whatever. But there's something that I observed, in my experience, instead of actually painting outside and stuff, I was just observing, right? Especially after reading Color and Light, that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
such a good book.
yeah, it was amazing. I read it I was on a trip, and I was actually paying attention to everything that the book said, and I was just observing that in reality, like everything about how light reacts at different times of the day. And an interesting effect happened that, when I came back home and I was at my usual workstation here, I was actually implementing all those things, as I was painting. So I was like,
Sweet.
I think if you focus on, I think I heard Eitan Zena say this, like, or maybe it was Shadi Safari. I don't remember which one of them said it, but it was mostly, don't think of anything else. Don't try to paint. Don't try to take pictures. Just look at the sunset, and pay attention to all those clouds and all
Not
those...
directly though.
No, not at the sun. I mean, look around, look at the sky, the clouds, the way everything reacts to light. And and then you'll probably learn something, I don't know. I have much respect for the you guys who are able to paint a sunset like live, right? Because the frame of time is so small, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Light changes so fast during those times, and I never tried, but I have to one day maybe. I don't usually
take
paint
out the
outside.
iPad. Take out the iPad and do a sunset painting or something.
Yeah,
It's a little bit harder with the iPad, but I get completely what you're talking about. I think, I don't even think you'd really need to pull out paints to actually like take those observations back to your computer. Honestly, it does help a little bit more because like you have that kinesthetic touch where you're actually like making that connection with your brain and your hands, where you're mixing colors and actually understanding those relationships. But I think if you're just like an artist with fundamental skills in the first place, like you're already going to be looking through life with a different lens than everyone else. Like you're probably going to be maybe spacing off a little bit and like looking at the reflection of a car, like, oh my God, wait. So the rendering of that car is because of the environment around it. Like, oh, those greens are popping up. Like, wait, it's a black metal. It's not a red metal. These colors, like
everyone's just looking at you.
You nailed it. You nailed it, dude. You nailed it. That's what happened when I was back in design school, and I was studying graphic design, right? And I remember we had like a subject that was about filmmaking. And dude, I got so much into cameras and filmmaking techniques and all that stuff that every time I watched a movie, I was like behind the camera, right? I couldn't pay attention to the story or anything like that. I was just witnessing every single shot and thinking, how do they do that? Like, what lens are they using? Like, wow, where's the light coming from? I was trying to figure out all the environment settings over there. And I think this is kind of directly related to the way an artist or a designer sees life. It's almost like any detail, right? You try to think of how they did it. How do they do that, right?
Yeah.
Like the thing you were mentioning about materials and stuff, like the reflection on that car, or I don't know. It's a constant creation mindset, I think.
You kind of become like hypersensitive to that kind of thing,
That's
like
the perfect
it
word.
almost overwhelms you anywhere that you are, right? Like it's and then you turn to that like non-artist friend and say, hey man, look at the clouds or look at and then the dirt.
Like, well, yeah, it looks cool, but you're like, oh my God, like the color relationships.
Yeah.
Can't you see it? Like,
Don't bother him. He's an artist.
Just let him be. Just let him like dive his nose in his sketchbook.
But I think that's so important, like to bring that kind of experience in your work, because at the end of the day, Like you can paint a super pretty picture, but if that doesn't evoke like a kind of feeling in someone, I'm not sure if that there is that much value in it. Even like I do a lot of hard surface, right? And even though the subject matters are like kind of dry, that you have to bring some sort of emotion to it, like try to convey a feeling. It's like I said, it's communication. What are you trying to tell someone?
Don't you think that if it evokes an emotion in you, will eventually evoke that emotion in someone else?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you kind of, if you do it for someone else, but you don't feel like it, it's almost like the same thing we said in the beginning of this podcast. Like you don't really care about this, you're doing it for someone else. So my point is that every time you do art, you probably feel it, right? Especially if it's a personal piece, right? You have something you want to put into it. And what I'm saying is that exactly what I'm saying is that will eventually be absorbed by someone else as well. Who I mean, there must be at least one someone out there, right? That must feel the same as you feel about the painting.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
And in like minute ways too. Like I think, and that's like a really good point. Like this feeling of experience and being able to translate that to someone else, because I think that's like at the core of art too. Like why we decide to do art for different types of subject matter. Like for Andre, like I've been following you for a while too, and seeing like all the hard surface stuff. So like that's got to come from somewhere, right? Like that interest into like hard surface design and like automotive, versus someone who's doing like character or doing environment. Like there's a reason why we gravitate towards certain subject matter, and if we can extract something from that, like whether it's like deep in our childhood, like maybe our dad had a motorcycle and we like had a lot of like good experiences with that, or like, oh, he went to Yosemite when he was a kid and like there was just like a beautiful day and now he just loves to do environments. Like how do you bring that like childlike wonder back into your pieces? Or like if you just like went on a trip or had an experience, whether that's like something through like your own like empirical experience, like you went out and traveled, or you just like watched a YouTube video about like a documentary about a certain place and you felt inspired, like how do you bring that to the table? Like how do you like represent that same feeling that you had to someone else through artwork? And that's like the hard thing too, is like because you're already struggling with like fundamental skills, like being able to draw a damn box and perspectives. like if you can't do that, how are you going to be expressing something?
That's such a bad feeling to have, to feel like you have this awesome idea that is inspired by a real experience of yours, and to think that you don't possess like the technical abilities to bring it to life. It's an awful feeling, which is never true, by the way. You just have to sit down and try, and that's it. Because it's I believe that it's mostly in our minds, all those limits we impose on ourselves. Like for instance, when I came up with my my first IP, let's call it like that, I kind of thought that no one would like it, so it took me like a year and a half to start posting about it. And all I'm saying is that this sense of validation, I think it should first come from inside, rather than outside. Which brings me again to the initial topic, which was that you care too much about what other people have to say about your art or whatever, like you do it for someone else. No, just do it for yourself. Yeah. And then the rest will follow eventually.
Yep.
I guess that's why like those figures that show us that it's possible are so important, right? I don't know a single artist that hadn't had that, like someone that showed them the way. That they show that, hey, at least a little bit, like there's this world out there that you're not experiencing. And then like when someone that I gotta believe that there's something inside of them that needs to come out in some way, and then someone just like cracks open the door a little bit and you peek through and like, oh my God, man, that's where I should be. Out here,
show you the reality of the world a little bit, and like the possibilities too. Like man, that's like why I'm so grateful for people. Like, like just like
people showed you the way.
Yeah, it's just like, like we're all so indebted to the people who have kind of helped us along the way, and that's like a part of like the reason why I'm like trying to teach and give it back a little bit too, like not having those resources as a kid. If I could show like a high schooler the proper path to take, like what are the things you need to learn right now? Like just that alone is like very like important advice. Like here, you need to like maybe check out Scott Robertson's book, How to Draw. Like just grind on that for a little bit, and I don't know, have the resources to do that. But I think we're all kind of standing on the shoulders of giants too. Like we're able to see like the masters beforehand and what they're able to do. And I think a lot of us are trying to get to that point where like, we're at the hilltop and we've made that masterful piece. But then like the very beginning of this discussion, like there's always like the next thing. Like there's always going to be like the next thing that you're going to strive towards. But having those like idols is like super important. Like knowing where your taste is, right? Like who are your favorite artists, right? For me, it's like Edgar Payne, Lion Decker, and probably Sparth, like to name a couple. But just like knowing that those people exist, it's like, all right, like I have work to do. Like,
See, you mentioned both like more historical figures and more modern figures, right? So what makes me think that I kind of feel the pressure of having to have like way older, like 200 years old masters of art, as an inspiration, as a reference, because everybody seemed to have someone who lived like 200 years ago. If I mention someone who is probably still alive and in its 50s or so, it's like, yeah, but that doesn't count. It's like nowadays, it's a nowadays artist. But I think it doesn't really matter as long as you get like inspired by their production and their results, their art, right, Andre?
I think everyone can be a reference point.
We tend to like devalue people that are here and now, like but we should, as Taylor said, like we should be grateful because they existed and they showed us the way, like even if it was not a direct contact. Like I cannot count my inspirations like in a hand, like there are so many people that at some point in my life they gave me like that extra boost, like, hey, go a little bit further. And then like when I got there, it was another person that showed me the way. And like you don't really need to sit and talk to them, but the reality is like those older people, I think they struggle a lot more because right now we have so much access that we tend to think that like, oh, somehow they were better, or they had some extra stuff but it's just like the different times brought out different things in different people, and they were unique in their own way. And I will not extract from them the same thing that I extract from people that exist now and they're my inspiration now. So like I'll take what I can from everybody that I know.
That's it.
Like the three of you right now, I'm taking a lot out of you, and I hope that I can share it a little bit as well. And the next generation will look at I hope at least they will look at people like us, right? And they will take like a small percentage of what we can tell. I guess that's the whole point of this podcast, like uniting minds that are different but can bring something to the table. And then like the next generation will bring that extra stuff. And
Sure. Yeah.
What makes me think, Taylor, what was your teaching experience like so far?
It's been very, very interesting. Like it's all been through online, like just Zoom calls, honestly. So
so you're saying I have a chance to become a student?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, if you have an internet connection. But a part of me likes it because I can just share what I'm doing on Photoshop a little bit, but there is that disconnect between like, me actually like being in a room with someone and like maybe bringing out an art book and like going through that and like showing them notes. Like the physicality of it's just not there. But I mean, it's been a really good experience just to see like just the breadth of students too. Everyone's at their own like state of being as an artist, and like everyone has an ability to improve too, but we're all at different stages. But like again, like teaching is kind of a reflection on yourself too. You're like looking into a mirror, like most of your critiques are actually like what you would say to yourself if you were critiquing your own artwork, right? Like whenever you're like helping a friend too, it's like the same way. It's like, oh, what would you do really is what you're telling them. So that's what I've noticed a lot. But because of that, like I've had to like review the subjects I'm teaching. So like for like digital painting, like what's at the core of painting, right? It's being able to really show light on top of forms and make that look realistic. But I don't know, like I've had different types of students, like from like 3D to like painting in plein air and then digital painting. But there's a lot of things that kind of relate to all the subjects. Like a lot of the principles of art are still the same. Like they're pretty constant, right? Like the fundamentals are constant. If you don't know how to draw like a box or design something, it's going to be hard to do that in 3D, probably, most likely, right?
Yeah.
So like those fundamentals are super important. That's like the one thing I'm noticing, like with most students, is like just having that fundamental and being able to like speak the language of art is like the most important part, because then you can start talking about design and all those things.
Yeah, I just want to mention something real quick here, because I noticed that when I was sculpting a lot in 3D, I noticed that I had like a much better understanding of volumes and forms in 2D. So it's kind of like an interesting effect, you know, like that by focusing on 3D, you understand better about 2D. So it also happens the other way around, you know?
Yeah, I remember the first time I tried Zbrush, like we had to sculpt like characters, and I thought I knew anatomy beforehand, but like when I started sculpting like certain parts, like the vastus medialis, like, oh, it's that shape actually, it has that volume, like I've been wrong this whole time, like my proportions, no, like those types of things become a little bit more apparent too. And
was like, ZBrush your first 3D program?
Yeah, ZBrush was like, actually it was 3ds Max, but ZBrush was like the first sculpting program. Yeah, 3ds Max is like such a janky program. Like, dude, it works.
ZBrush was my first 3D program, and afterwards I tried 3ds Max, but it was like 5 seconds, I think. It was just open it and close it. I was like, hell no. This is like a spaceship, you know?
Yeah, that interface, man.
Yeah, crazy. Oh man, that was so cool.
I feel like I have to preach Blender here for you guys.
Blender, dude, I want to get into that. Oh my god, for so long
I've been
already.
using Blender, it's great. I love how it's free. Like,
yeah.
What are some of your experiences with it? Like what have you been making with it so far? You want to talk about?
Oh, for me personally, I've just been using it to just block out like illustrations that I don't really want to spend time just like painting. So I'll just like mainly for just like organic assets like rocks and stuff. Like Andre, I don't know if you use like the Quixel assets or like the mega scans that they have. Oh man, you should get into it, because what Epic has done is they've worked with Quixel, which is just like a company that does like mega scans of environments and stuff. But you can just use all their scans and throw them into Blender, and you have like realistic rocks, like high poly rocks, and they're already like, they got the materials on them, and it's just like, it's so much easier to just compose rocks that are already like realistic instead of having to paint them all, you know? So it's like mainly what I've been using Blender for. It's just like a shortcut, or like a way to progress concepts a little bit farther than if you were to have to construct everything in 2D.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a shortcut, right? In that case, if you're just painting stuff. To me, 3D, it's been more valuable in the sense of designing things, since I do the hard surface stuff, right? If I had to draw everything like from every angle that I have to see it like all the time, dude, it would just not work, you know? So like in that sense, it was freeing to go from 2D sketching and 2D painting to like, okay, now I have full control of this object. But it's like you said before, you know, like if you don't have any idea of how to design stuff, I would say that it hurts more than it helps, because then you will end up wasting a lot of time like pushing verts around. So I would say that the core is still designing and fundamentals, you know, like you can apply them everywhere. Like I started 3D, like, I don't know, maybe right as I started drawing as well. And it was not like that good, you know. Like I could not extract out of it anything that was decent. And I would not say that I know a lot of stuff right now, but like I know more than I knew then, and now I can extract a lot more value out of any software that I put my hands on. You know, like if it's VR, if it's Zbrush. Like I started Zbrush, I don't know, a month ago or something like that, and that also blew my mind. You know, because it's a completely different thing, and you see possibilities instead of seeing like difficulties with the softwares now, because you understand that like, okay, this is just a tool. How can I use this to show an idea? And yeah, man, like
Dude,
it's getting
coming
crazy
from,
with all
from Blender to straight up using ZBrush. What was that? How disruptive was that for you as a vehicle designer? You know, to make spaceships in ZBrush.
Well, it's weird because like sculpting, it's very different than modeling, you know, like in the sense of what you're actually doing. So it allowed me to do way more organic kind of forms and the transition. And I felt more free than I feel in Blender, right? Because I don't know if it's just the look of the program or how you actually like kind of had your hands on the model. And I was, for the first time, feeling like I was not attached to like hard angles or perfect shapes, you know, because I have a very hard time not with like trying to be too precise and too perfect with the forms and lines and everything like that. And since in ZBrush, like I basically had no control over like how the edges would form perfectly.
Yeah.
They always have like they're a little bit jagged. So I just embraced that, and it was like as if I was released into another world, you know.
Yeah.
And
Plus, you must.
and then I had
you
to
must
bring
spend,
everything
like,
back to Blender to make everything tight, but we will not mention that. We'll
Blender
just focus
fixing
on
it. We'll just cut that out of the conversation.
No, but
plus
I
you
guess
must
like
spend
it's
like
understand.
90% of the time just spinning around the model with the camera, right? Like just checking stuff, and that's mostly
Checking proportions from like every
Yeah.
5-degree change in angle.
Oh man.
So Taylor, what's
No, I really think it's powerful as a tool, you know. Like, but again, like drawing it was like that as well when I found that out. So
I think everything has like its purpose, but it's really refreshing to see someone using a tool in a different way or for something that wasn't supposed to work for, you know, like what? ZBrush? Using like vehicles or spaceships in ZBrush? You crazy? You modeling in ZBrush? What the hell?
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, it's
like
possible.
even-
What's the problem? You know?
Yeah, like Photoshop for painting. Like it's not even really a painting program, but Craig Mullins decided to just-
Photoshop.
Yeah, it's just for editing photos. Like that was the intention. But like you have people like Craig Mullins who just busts out his like mouse and starts painting with
Right.
the features inside of Photoshop, and
Right.
then people start to realize like, oh wait, this is a little bit more efficient. And I think that's just like a trend with us as humans, right? Like we're just so prone to use tools, right? Like we are like the species that uses tools, and we've always been accelerating like the tools that we have and like how efficient they are.
Yeah.
And-
like what's your brushes?
Yeah, yeah.
What brushes do you use?
Like, yeah, like what photo packs are you using, or like I don't know, like the technology is always accelerating, and I'm just hoping to, you know, just like have like a just like some sort of like plug that goes into my brain. I can just like lay down and design in my head and just upload it to a cloud or something. Like I don't know, I see it getting to that point, but it's like very like Black Mirror.
Yeah, I was
type
watching
shit.
Matrix like the last weekend, right? The whole trilogy. And dude, how much I
Yeah.
wanted like to have those just upload the knowledge of the software in my head and then like
I know, yeah.
No more
that would
no,
be awesome, man.
no more hand-eye coordination. It's just
have
straight
it
in your
beam
head and
it on the paper. You know,
Yeah, that'd be so sick.
no work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about your stuff with Proco, or is that confidential?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about.
I saw the video, by the way. Really informative, very well
video,
put
dude.
together,
Oh, thanks.
entertaining.
Yeah.
It's
LightShare is
really,
getting
really
big, man. Like look at the kind of guests that we're bringing in now.
Oh. We're scaling, guys.
Yeah, scaling up little by little. Yeah, that was such a nerve-wracking experience, honestly. Like, because personally, like I'm actually like pretty introverted, honestly. Like I like throughout my life, I've like suffered with like social anxiety, and like putting myself out there, like presenting in front of people is like something I still struggle with today. But like going through that whole process of like, having something that like I've spent a little bit of time on trying to figure this out, and learning from like the proper people. So I had a little bit of confidence going into it. But like working with the Proco team's dope. Like they had producer I was working with, so everything was like, I had everything in scripts, and all I had to do was like film the stuff and do the demos and send it their way. And by the time I got to see the final video, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't a train wreck. This is actually like pretty cool, like the way you guys edited it. So like working with those people was like pretty cool. Like they have a huge team of people that makes these videos happen. But like, I don't know, just like as a learning experience too, like people like Proco really inspire me, because it shows like, if you start something and if you just keep chipping away at it and keep building it day in, day out, like no matter how big, like, or how much you're contributing to it, as long as you like believe in that compound effect, that your idea is going to manifest into something big, like it will. Like if you have the perseverance to do that, because like Proco's got a huge studio, like he's pretty much like a production company and a businessman. It's like, whoa, like there's potential here with like art. Like he's like the Elon Musk of art, is like what some people will call him, like art education Elon Musk. But
we'll probably get to see Proco the movie real soon.
Yeah, they probably have like a TV spin-off series. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know, it's just fun to work with like people who are professional, like even in like your own line of work too. Like working on a good team is like satisfying in itself. It's like a form of payment in a way. Like you just, I don't know, it's like really cool to work with like people who are talented and know what they're doing. Like especially when you have a team where you realize like maybe you don't have like all the proper skills to make something happen. Like for me, if I had to edit that video and like do all the scripting myself, it would have probably been like a lot worse. And
it must provide you with this sense of comfort, right? To have like such professionals working together with you and stuff.
Yeah, having a team really helps, like with people who have specialties in their own fields, because then you can just trust them to do the right thing, and you don't have to really do any micromanaging. So that was like one of the takeaways from doing that, is just like, if people are good at what they're doing, you can kind of trust them to fill in the gaps and make things happen. So yeah, I will be doing some more videos for Proco and trying to do like some plein air videos with him, where I'm taking that into digital and then showing how to merge both of those realities together. So I'm pretty excited about it. But
nice.
Yeah, it was a fun experience. Like afterwards, at least, like seeing that the video went up and I wasn't getting too much hate for it, because like, I don't know, like we all have this like negativity bias, right? Like,
wait, you thought that?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I think it's,
you thought
like,
it was not going to be like
like
a thing that people would like.
Yeah, there was like these weird anxieties I'd have, like I don't know, I'd like go to bed at night and I'd be like, oh, what if like someone comments like, this dude's a fraud, like this stuff like that, like, oh wait, like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or
stop
or
attacking me, dude.
I get that anxiety too, man. On like some roads, it's like, okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like, what I'm putting out there, is it gonna help somebody, or is it gonna be like, oh, is it?
Why do we feel that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because like going back to just like who we are as like a species, like evolutionarily, like I don't know, like we need to focus on like the negative aspects of life, to be prepared for it, or something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Probably like a survival instinct or something.
Yeah, I think like it's a combination of like naturally we focus on more negative stuff because they can have a bigger impact in our lives. But at the same time, we have a career path that like in order for us to grow, we need people to criticize our work, So it's like you learn that behavior all the time. Like, hey, I'm going to put my work out there. People will tell me what I did wrong, so I can do better next time, and that's the right pathway to success. So I think every time that you post something, you wait for that, like, hey,
Yeah.
what did I do wrong in this one? And like,
And what
Yeah.
if when that doesn't happen? When
I
that
think
negative feedback never comes, you know?
I think your like
Do you feel
past
like
work
bad?
is always like the benchmark for
Mhm.
that. Like you can always look at your past work and see that's like your criticism of like your work now. It's like
Yeah.
how much you've improved over the years. You look back, oh, I could have done that a more different way or approach that differently now.
Mm.
What I would
Mhm.
like, it opens your eyes a bit
yeah,
to like your work.
So
and
it's
that
probably
makes
like a
like,
stigma kind of thing? Like
I
because you
think
received some negative feedback in the past, it's like you're prone to keep receiving it in the present. Even though you're
I don't
much
know if
better
like,
now, you've improved a lot.
yeah, I don't know if you're prone to like receiving it, because at a certain point, it doesn't even matter if you receive any negative feedback or not. You know, like you already associate like, okay, I need to find what's wrong with this thing that I just did, and then you find it. Like if you're going to look for it, you will find it, and that makes you like, oh, if I found it, everybody will find it, and I'm screwed. They'll find out that I'm a
Exactly,
fraud. And
because what I'm hearing from you is that it's basically always like little details that only you seem to know, but for some
Oh,
reason
yeah.
you kind of convince yourself that everybody's gonna look there and is gonna notice that
Yeah.
little mistake you made, right?
Oh,
When they never
that's
do
so
that,
true.
right? They're just
Yeah.
like, dude, this is amazing, and you're like, yeah, thanks. Hope you don't look there because it's like, you know.
Damn.
I'll just say thank you, so they don't look where they want it to.
Yeah,
No,
man,
but
that's
even if
so
you
right.
mention it,
Yeah,
right? Even if you tell them like, yeah, but this is wrong, you know, right here, they'd probably be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, but that doesn't. I mean, it's nothing, you know. It's like, look at the big picture. It's perfect, right?
yeah,
And then we escalate that, right? We think like,
Yeah.
oh, if I made such a small mistake, that means that everything that I deserved so far, that's not true. So like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
also a
Yeah.
little bit of that. We need to learn how to control that kind of thing. Hey, I'm allowed to make mistakes and still deserve what I had today. You know,
I
like
think that
I don't
comes
think you
from
would
a
have
very
like,
emotional type of mindset, you know, like being too emotional and not really thinking logically about everything. So you're kind of anchored in a past mistake that you probably made, which is not correlating with the present, you know, which is your art being just good, right? It's okay. It's just a little mistake. It's nothing crazy, right? Stop being like so into that little mistake you made there. So yeah, that's what I think. You know, we tend to make little things seem bigger, you know, like
Oh,
little
yeah.
rocks be like mountains, when in reality it's like just a rock, you know, it's just a little mistake. Don't really dwell on that. I say this because I
yeah,
always overthink a lot about everything I do, dude, and it's killing me. It's really energy demanding, you know. It's
Yeah.
like
there's
Yeah.
this.
it's
I
exhausting.
don't know if you guys know the channel Veritasium. I
Yeah.
think it's how it's called.
Mhm.
He posted recently a video about how we tend to overvalue our own experiences and devalue other people. It's like he was talking about how people always feel like they do more than other people in work or at home or everything like that. And I think it's a good video for people to watch if they are like taking themselves too seriously in a way, you know. Like if that may concern you, I think the video was awesome. You know, like I haven't found any mistake if you did. So
Oh, thanks.
no, man, like it's from someone that comes from a very different like point of view, right? And my art's very different from yours, you know, like I always find that is where I extract most amount of value, you know. So like that kind of thing is extremely important. And no, I never thought about throwing hate at anybody that did that kind of stuff. You know, like you are giving away knowledge for free, man. Like if there's someone that hates that kind of thing, I think that's where the mistake lies.
Yeah, that's
And
like another thing too. Is just like we need to take a step back. Like we need to sober ourselves a little bit. Like even if like you do get a little bit of hate, like if someone dislikes the video, it's like, well, they probably got like other things, like other reasons why they dislike it, or like those reasons probably aren't even like important for your own success. Or if you do get critique, it's like, should you even be listening to that person in the first place? Like I don't know, like that's another part too. Is like, who are you actually taking advice from? And I think like for me, like that fear kind of comes from like me showing that to the world, but then like having someone who I look up to tell me that it's bad. That's like, I think that's where a little bit of the fear comes from. It's like if someone who like I've been learning from is like, hey, that's like that video didn't turn out as good as you could have done. Like those types of fears, like in the back of my mind, kind of come up, but they're irrational. They're just like completely irrational. Like, there's this one book called Show
Tell
Your
me
Work,
about
and
it.
I think it's
I'm trying to record a video for like 4 days now, and it's like several times a day. Yeah, don't look at me like that, Andrea. It's true, man. I'm like,
Dude, I cannot control my expressions. I'm sorry. I should remain calm and quiet.
It's so weird because it's something I've done, right? It's a painting that I did, and I'm just trying to narrate like the entire process. And every time I like mess up somewhere and I say something in the wrong way, like it probably, English is not my native language, so I still make some mistakes sometimes. But if I say something in a wrong way and I kind of block out, I'm like, wait, that's not like that. And I have to restart the entire video again, like, or maybe simply, but I'm not saying everything I wanted to say and I'm running out of time, so I'll just start again. These types of insecurities, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it really kills your productivity and it sucks.
But Adrian, I do believe like this critical side that we have as artists is actually like pretty important, right? Because if you didn't have that critical sense about yourself and what you're presenting to the world, your work probably wouldn't be as good as it is, because you would just like if you're narrating something and you screw up on a word, or you didn't really like vocalize how you're really feeling and decide to retake that, like, it's just going to come out as like less of a product versus like what you could actually do, and that's the process of learning too, is to be self-critical. Like, okay, maybe that stroke wasn't as good, or maybe that color wasn't as good. Let's try it again. Let's do it again. This process of like failure and feedback is pretty important.
I definitely agree with you, and I also believe that there should be like a balance there, right, between this chaos versus perfectionism type of approach to your work and everything you do. And I truly believe that this sense of perfectionism usually comes from a distorted perception of what perfection is really, right? Because even if you do it like in a not so good way, right, it's still going to be good. And you're probably going to look at it as like another big achievement of yours, no matter what. It's like at least you finished it, It reminds me of this video of Jake Parker, finished not perfect. So, yeah, I think it's definitely something that someone should work on if they're facing that kind of problem. Just like myself, for instance, this perfectionism vortex that never ends. It's like, no, I have to try again. Because it really kills your. If it becomes like a. If it becomes like a. If it becomes like a loop, then that's a problem. But if you're striving for perfection from a self-criticism type of approach, that's, as you say, a really healthy approach, because it's like you're going to make something better, of course. I'm just saying that if it's constant all the time, it's not so productive anymore.
Yeah, I guess balance is the word, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You can have both of them, like either like perfection or just trying to be done with something, stop your progress. Like both sides can stop your progress, and you have to balance that kind of thing.
I think perfection is almost fleeting. It's like you can't make something super perfect. Like there's always going to be flaws. Like with my project, there's always flaws with it. It's like I wanted to make it as perfect as I could, but it's like not possible. Like it has to be like finished at some point, even if it's not perfect. Like at least it's out there, and that's what matters the most. It's like
I also believe that you got to be happy with what you've made, but not 100%, right? Because there's always like that little room for improvement, right? Like there's always a taller mountain to climb.
Oh yeah.
That's, I think, how you stay on course.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I don't know if the way that you put it is the best way, because like
Probably
you
not.
should not be happy what you did. But I think
No,
like
not happy, but
you can
like
be
not
happy
satisfied
about that.
entirely.
I have a hard time with that concept. Like I don't want to be like just a jerk, But think
No,
about
I
it.
get it. I know what you
Something
mean.
can be like not perfect and be 100% right on what that is. Like I appreciate it for what it is, and it's a stepping stone towards progress. And it's perfect the way it is, with all its defects, with
Yeah,
all
I
its
agree with that.
imperfections. I just like don't want people to look in the past and see their best pieces and be like, hey, I'm not happy with this. Because every piece that I've done, even the shitty ones, like the first drawings, yeah, man, I'm happy with them. Like honestly,
They are
they were
part of
like
your
essential.
progress, like part of
Yeah,
your
and I remember
evolution.
like almost every single one of them. Like what I was trying to do at that moment, and exactly where I failed. But that doesn't mean like I hold a negative feeling towards that piece, right? It was the experience that I had at the moment and what I could do, and I'm happy. I just don't do that anymore. Like I know better now. The same way that like you look at that drunk night that you had with your friends and you did something stupid.
How was
and
that
like,
productive?
you were not that sad, like about making some stupid shit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's always something to learn from every step, I guess. Everything you do.
I just wanted to be happy looking back, man.
Yeah, that's like the last thing, is looking back and just regretting everything too. Like I can definitely relate to that in terms of just like doing plein air painting, like doing little sketches. Like I think that's important too, is to just like find something good about what you're doing. Like don't necessarily always project like the negative things on it, because that's just going to make you hate what you're doing over time.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's just going to develop into like some sort of like self-hatred as well. But like whenever I'm painting, like what's like the end goal here? It's to like have a good time doing the painting. If that was what I ended up with, and I had
Do you
a good
get
time
lost
doing
in
it,
like your own world, your own thoughts? You play music in the background, or how? What is your approach when you do art?
oh man, I
He
usually
listens to LightShare while he's painting. That's what he does.
Oh,
Yeah, listen to LightShare.
I like that.
Listen to
I like
podcasts, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I love listening to podcasts. Like, especially if I'm doing something that's not very like design heavy, to where I have to like think about what I'm doing.
the initial stages.
Yeah, like if it is like something where it's like blue sky development, where I had to actually like do some creative writing and like solve the problem through words and through just like thumbnails. And sometimes I just won't even have music on. I'll like put my headphones on so I could just block out all the other sound, honestly, and I'll just get into a flow state and just allow my thoughts to emerge. But like if I'm doing something that's just like super passive, like rendering or composing something in 3D, I'll have like a podcast on, like Joe Rogan or Your Mom's House podcast I've been listening to. Like any type of comedy is like usually good for me. Anything that like gives me good vibes. But yeah, do you guys listen to music? Like I know a lot of people listen to like movie soundtracks. And I've done that before too. It's pretty inspiring.
I was going to ask you if you kind of theme your audio background, like when you're painting. Like for instance, if you play certain things related to what you are designing in that moment. For instance, like documentaries about animals when you're designing creatures, or that kind of examples. Because sometimes I do. Sometimes it's just like random. It's just inspiring movie soundtracks that just get me motivated and stuff. I usually do fantasy stuff, so yeah, it's probably always things of that matter. But I also enjoy a lot documentaries about like science or animals and stuff like that. It's I don't know. I just recently found some. I forgot the name of the channel. It's like BBC documentaries, something. I don't know. And they just post them for free. It's like a hour-long type of videos. And then there's like even longer videos that people put together and like kind of like in a loop. And it's just nature sound, with, for instance, the other day I found like an underwater type of video that, features like all sort of animals living underwater, like squids and what's the name of these things that are so oh man, this is so embarrassing. Fish?
Yeah,
No.
man, I'm ashamed for you. Come on.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know the name right now. They're
Don't worry, man.
jellyfish. Holy shit, jellyfish. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, and it was so cool, you know, because I was just working on something like that, and it was so inspiring to have those things in the background. But sometimes I also play like podcasts and stuff, which I just observe that I can't pay attention to if I'm focusing on design things, you know, especially in the, just like what you mentioned. And as soon as the detail stage kind of kicks in, it's like, yeah, throw at me anything you want. I'll just listen to it because it's like basically an autopilot mode.
Yeah, it's on autopilot.
I don't know about, what about you guys?
I just listen to podcasts too, or like sometimes I have my headphones on, but I'm working like in the zone, and then I realize I don't have anything playing, and it's silence.
That will happen as well. Yeah, you're so into the flow state, right? You forget about everything else.
Yeah, I like to have like
YouTube just asking you, "Are you still there?" You know.
I like to have certain moods, you know. So like this playlist, it's for like, this is for chilling. This is for like early in the day when I want to like get motivated, and other ones are like late. It's late at night. I'm still working, but I want to like slow down the day a little bit and listen to something like more calm. Some of them are music from my childhood, you know, like things that I would listen, like, I don't know, in car trips or something like that. And I found like the childhood music, it's one of the ones that like makes me more inspired and motivated, you know,
bring some
because
memories,
it brings back that, it brings like all. I don't know about you guys, but
not
I
only the
can't
memories,
remember
but probably
very well.
the state of mind you had back then. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know,
I can't
it's
remember
so
like negative feelings as well as I can remember the good things, you know. So like, it's not that bad things did not happen. It's just like they fade out in the background, and what it's brought forward, it's like the good moments, you know. And that
I guess
kind
it depends
of energy,
on what you associated to those cartoons or soundtracks.
Yeah,
or...
I guess so.
Yeah.
But if you haven't tried that thing, like,
it's
I
so
highly recommend.
nostalgic. I just did it recently out of nowhere. I don't know. I just found some cartoons that I used to watch when I was a kid, and I'm like, oh right, I even forgot about this. Oh my god! And I just found like 3 episodes on YouTube. It's so cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
we artists are just kids that never grow up creatively. You know, like we just stay. We just keep that inside, you know, all the time, and that's a pretty unique what's the word I'm looking for, man? Holy shit, not my day, I'm sorry.
Like an artistic trait, like we never grow up.
Trait, dude. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, trait, exactly. So that's really cool.
You know, like, we will have to record this podcast again just because you're messing up the words. No,
yeah,
starting back
probably.
from the beginning.
Just an extra 5 minutes.
We're like 1 hour and 20 minutes in, and I'll have to start again.
Oh, it's been that long already.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, right? Time really flies.
Man.
It's really cool. It's really cool to talk to you, man. Like, it's
yeah, likewise.
I only talked to you on Instagram. We just exchanged a couple of messages, but ever since I saw I forgot really what was the first artwork I saw from you, but it really, I think someone shared it or something, and I just went on to your profile, and I'm like, just seeing the same type of art, and I'm like, holy moly, this is the thing, you know. Insta follow, and yeah, man, and so I'm just impressed, man, with the way you have to bring on, you know, this perfect balance between light and shadows, and that color richness, if that's a word, you know, in the shadows. Like the one you made in the video from Proco, every time I watch people do something that's that I consider to be so good, I feel like, fuck that guy, man. Shit. Like, how does he do that? And just because it's something that I can't do yet, you know, like when I see you just using raw color, you know, you just color pick your own choices and you paint with that color instead of using like multiply layers or overlay, or, you know, to achieve those kind of effects, which is what I do, right? I'm like, it makes me feel like a fraud, you know. It makes me feel like I don't know how to do it for real, you know. But I think that's also coming from your experience and training in plein air painting and stuff like that, and traditional media as well. I think that's something that helps a lot, because I've seen most, you know, new coming artists that they want to, I like to draw and I want to do stuff, so I just start straight on a tablet. Like, I just go digital first and then I kind of practice traditional. I've always heard it's actually the other way around, that they should approach this. You know, you first start on paper, you understand a little bit of how everything works, and then you kind of make the switch to digital. And in digital, everything, it's like, let's call it easier, because there's layers and there's like an easy erase button and stuff, and Control Z, of course. There's
Control
like
Z,
yeah. Have you ever had that urge to kind of press it, like where there's no keyboard?
Yeah, I have like phantom Control Z going on. Like,
there's like an instinct, like a reflex,
the button on your brush.
Yeah, right.
That too. Like I've been doing like paintings in iPad too, and like I'll set my hand on the table in like the same way I would as like a keyboard, and sometimes I'll hit that like Control Z. I'm like, why is this not undoing? Like, what's going on here? So I definitely have that too. It's kind of weird how our brains work that way.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, the habit thing we already created, right?
Yeah.
It's always there. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, I have nothing to say. I'm just enjoying the moment.
I just wanted to see you guys in this silence, weird, awkward moment.
I don't think it's weird. Like, it's a lot to take in, you know.
No.
Like, one of the reasons why I was looking forward to this episode, it's because having people that think so differently, showing how they think. I think it shows a lot in the artwork, you know, like your personality. And I was intrigued to find out like how you thought about stuff. That's why I was thinking more about, like, I don't know if it's deeper, the word, but thought process and how you got to be where you are. And what Adrian is saying is like, yeah, it makes sense, you know, like very deliberate choices on the canvas. They make sense when you get to know the person. And I guess like for each one of us, it really makes sense to like look at you. And I was just like tripping on that, you know, like looking at each webcam and saying, oh, how that personality shows, because I know these two like for a little while now, and damn, man, I hope that my work doesn't show as much as yours. Very clear, the person who created it, you know, like,
yeah.
I like this feeling you get when, you know, for instance, in this case, Tayler, I feel like I've known you for way longer than I actually do, you know, like.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh? I feel the same way towards you guys. Like,
it's a strange feeling. Have you ever got that, guys, with other people? Because I do a lot of times, especially when they're like, how should I say this? Like so close, you know, so transparent, so like, I don't know, man. It's a weird feeling, but I feel like I've known them for way longer than I actually do. So that's so interesting.
I think these conversations are just so deep and meaningful, so it's easy to connect with someone and like make that.
Right.
Yeah. Plus we're all artists, and I feel like, you know, we've gone through a similar journey, so like already like I feel like there's like some sort of camaraderie between all of us, because I know like you've all probably gone through the same struggles that I have, or similar ones at least, you know. And I think that helps to kind of relate to you guys a little bit more. You know, like, so
what are your artistic plans for the future? Like, do you have? I'm just curious. You know, do you have any like personal project or something that you work on?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, like for me, it's like
I understand
so
you're
chaotic.
very busy with everything you mentioned, but I was just curious.
Yeah, I do have like that like typical like 5-year goal, but eventually like I would like to, like most artists, like start my own studio eventually. Get to a position where I'm doing like art direction or creative direction, and like a lot of what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to set myself up to have that type of future, right? So like education is kind of like art direction experience in a way. Like I'm finding ways to art direct these students and develop their styles and make sure that their ideas are manifested in their own ways. But for myself too, I am developing like these little like side projects too. Like I have this one project called Moonshiners, where it's like a space opera where you have these like imperialistic cowboys that go to different celestial bodies and terraform them, but it's like has like a Western vibe to it. But then like
That's awesome, dude.
You mentioned
Sounds
that.
good.
yeah. But eventually I'd like to just have a cabin in the woods with like Google Fiber or something, like good internet speed where I can just go out and paint all day, but come back and do digital work. Like that would be ideal for me, honestly.
I can relate to that so bad.
Yeah.
To just be surrounded by nature, and just be able to do your own stuff, and then step outside and be like instantly like in the woods, in the big forest.
Sounds awesome. Yeah.
That's a dream.
Mm.
Yeah. Definitely possible. One day we'll get there. Maybe we can kind of make like a school for artists that's like in the woods or something, and you also get to make them learn some what's that called, bushcrafting? Is that what it's called? Bushcraft? Like
I don't know. Oh, I've heard of it, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I've heard of bushcraft. I'm not too familiar.
Maybe it's not bushcraft. I'm just mixing words, but
just like throw some artists out to the wild and make them survive on their own.
Exactly, like survivability stuff, learning how to make like tools out of nowhere, stuff like that. There's this channel that I like a lot. It's Primitive Technology.
Oh, I love that channel.
Yeah, it's this guy just making stuff out of nowhere, with his bare hands. He makes a tool that helps him make another tool that helps him make a house, and so forth. Yeah. It's so interesting. I think it would be cool, to kind of also teach these kind of basic things that we don't really need where we live right now, because we just simply don't need that. We just have everything in exchange for money. But what if, you could learn to do that on your own? I don't know, just ideas I'm throwing out there,
I think
an art academy in the mountain.
Yeah, about to start it. Get some seed money to make our cabin in the woods and get some artists to come.
Yeah, let's make like an X-Men academy, but for artists, young talents.
Yeah.
Maybe we can turn it into like a reality show, like with cameras and stuff. I've heard Dom is actually cheating, man. He's using pictures. Like, what? You guys are talking behind my back? No, just saying, it's not okay to use pictures. Like, dude. And he's
the
a
first
concept
one whose
artist.
pictures gets eliminated.
I'll adapt.
No, but the thing about the cheating thing is like that used to be a very 2015 thing for me, because it's like when I was getting into this to know the industry better, and I was really hesitating whether to, how can I confront these people that come up with that kind of argument, like, oh, you use pictures? Do you photo bash? But that's not painting, that you're just using images. Oh, you use 3D? Such a cheater, man. Which reminds me of Anthony Jones just talking about ancient artists, and the tools they were using every time they invented some new tool, right? Like, what? You're using like, I don't know, acrylics, and you don't have to wait for it to dry or something like that. I don't know. It's like, oh, that's cheating, you know? What, markers? What? That's what?
That's why you want to go into the woods, right? You want to craft your own paper and pencil.
I
Then
want to
no
make my
one
own
will
stuff,
call you a
man.
cheater, right?
100% natural.
Curious.
Nah, I don't know. It's probably coming from more of a feeling of escape, perhaps, like just to be there by your own and forget about everything. You know, kind of like a similar feeling you get when you just isolate yourself with the headphones and some nice soundtracks or podcasts. You get into that flow state. You know. Yeah, I think that's cool. I'm pretty sure you guys like to go like on hikes and stuff like that, right? So imagine having that just by your house.
Yeah,
right?
I like that, but without the effort. So I just drive around. You know?
You just plug the cable into your head and you feel like you're hiking, you know?
Exactly. Way better, man.
Yeah.
Don't get all sweaty and stuff.
Low effort is the best way.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's been a good one, guys.
Yeah, it's been like already
For
like
real.
90 minutes. That's pretty crazy. How fast that was.
Man. Yeah, that
Damn.
flew by like crazy. Yeah, but this was awesome talking to you guys. Like you guys are pretty dope people. Like
Thank you a
I'd
lot,
like
man.
to do this
Likewise.
again in the future sometime.
I was just gonna
you know?
say
I don't
that
know.
you have to come back, you know, at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love
Definitely.
to. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, this is such a good idea doing this podcast. Like you guys are doing it. You guys are making it happen.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, man. It's I'm actually impressed how fast that worked. You know, I think it was like a day. You know, like
Really.
it's
A
funny
day of
because
planning.
yeah, Andrea and me were like just having these casual calls, like, "Hey, dude, how are you? Oh, good. I'm just doing this. You know, what about you?" and stuff like that, just talking about random stuff. And then we thought, dude, we
Yeah,
could
for 4
turn this-
hours. You forgot to mention that. Like,
for 4 hours,
Each
and
time
we
that it's
just
just like, hey, how
we
are
just-
you? 5 hours later, this was a good one.
we just realized the thing is that we just realized that we could we were getting into pretty deep topics that we thought people could just benefit from listening to, and we thought, hey man, we could, I just said that like as a joke, you know, like, hey, we should make this into a podcast or something. Like, can you imagine like having our own YouTube channel? And he was like, yeah, imagine that, you know. And then like a couple months later, we were talking to Dom as well, and he's like, yeah, let's actually do it. So I'm gonna set up like a YouTube account, and I'm like, this is happening already? It was that fast.
Gotta
Yeah.
make something work, you know.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm definitely thankful for that. That was really fast. And yeah, man,
Yeah.
I really hope you come back at some point, you know? It's been
definitely.
really cool to have you here.
About it, stuff.
Really interesting. So, well, any last words before we wrap this up?
Anything you'd like to tell, like your
Where
viewers?
can
or the
people
viewers
find
in
you?
general?
You know?
Oh, okay. If your viewers want to find me, I'm on Instagram and ArtStation with the same name, Tayler Olivas Art. I think on ArtStation it's just Tayler Olivas. So you guys can follow me there. But yeah, thanks a ton, guys, for inviting me on. This is actually like really fun. I was like kind of nervous going into this, but you guys are super chill and made this really, really fun experience. So yeah, I'm
Likewise,
looking forward
man.
to talking to you guys in the future, man.
It was a
Yeah.
pleasure, for sure. So, well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thank you guys for being here. And we just hope to see you in the next episode. So until then, remember to take care, stay creative, and have fun painting.
And,
So,
Jellyfish. That's also that.
jelly, fuck you, dude. Fuck out of here.